Okay, ladies, thank you so much. Really, a nest to come out on Erev Pesach to come to a shir literally breaks our nature. And so, Be'ezrat Hashem, in the zechus of learning, ladies, coming out to learn that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we already know that He's shifting nature around, that we should be able to see it with our eyes this year, please God. Thank you very much to Shari Amuna for hosting us, and of course to Chazaq for taking care of these shiurim in order to raise the level of Jewish learning all over the world, like literally one community to the next community, and trying so hard to make sure that it's tailor-made to everywhere they go. The Tzemach Tzedek told his Hasidim, I want specific matzahs. I want the matzahs from Reb Mendel. So the Hasidim, the Rebbe says, get matzahs from a specific house. They're like, okay, what's special about this Yid? What's special about this Jew? And they go and they're watching Reb Mendel. It's a week or two before Pesach, and they're watching and they see he's a regular businessman. He owns a liquor shop. He's doing masao matan. He's doing regular business back and forth. People are coming. People are buying. And they don't really notice anything out of the ordinary about this Jew. They're trying to find what's so special about him that the Rebbe said, his matzahs, make sure you get for me from his matzahs for my Seder. The only thing they notice is that he's running his business, and there are a lot of people who pay, but there are a lot of people who come to the cashier and they say, listen, could we put it on the tab? I don't have the money right now. And to everybody, Reb Mendel would say to them, no problem, but please, take a piece of paper, write exactly what you took and how much you owe me, and after Chag, we can settle the cheshbon. And he was taking the papers, one paper, and he would put it in his special folder that he had, and he was putting the papers whenever anybody would come, they would write a paper and he would put it in his folder. And there was one Yid who came and said, Reb Mendel, I'm so sorry, I know I still have a tab with you from last year. I'm so embarrassed that I haven't been able to pay it up yet, but Chag is coming and I need wine for the Arba Koso. Is there any way you can extend me a little bit? Is there any way you can give me a little bit more credit? And Mendel says to him, no problem, but I just want you to please itemize exactly what you took and how much you owe me for each thing, and he writes it down, he puts it in his thing, and the Hasidim are looking to see where is something special going to happen. Okay, tzedakah, it's a very big zchus, but a lot of people, Amcha Yisrael is very, very holy. What's the special thing that he's going to do? And they don't really see anything crazy out of the ordinary. And it comes now Erev Pesach. And there's a minhag even till today that there are people who bake their matzahs really mamish on Erev Pesach. And this Reb Mendel is getting his fire ready in his backyard, and he has his oven that he's getting the fire, stoking the coals in order to make it hot, 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 so that he could put his matzahs onto the stone and then take them out. And the Chassidim are watching because they have to tell him that the Rebbe wants some of his matzahs. And so they're watching, and they see that as the fire is going, this liquor store owner goes back into his house and pulls out the folder from the store. And he takes the folder and he opens up the folder, and in the folder are all of the IOUs. And he takes each IOU and he throws it into the fire. And he's throwing all of the chovot, all of the debts that people owe him. And then quickly he takes his matzah, puts it over there. Quickly the next one, l'shem mitzvos matzah, the next one. Chassidim run in and they say, Reb Mendel, you need to make 3 extra. The Rebbe wants from your matzahs. And he of course makes the 3 extra. And the Chassidim bring it over to the Tzemach Tzedek and they say, we listened and we got you matzahs from Reb Mendel. And the Rebbe looks and he says to them, you understand why I wanted the matzahs from Reb Mendel? And they look and they say, we understand, Rebbe. And he tells them, I want you to bring him to me. Bring him to me. It's Erev Chag. Bring him to me. And they bring Reb Mendel to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he's like, me? What? You wanted my matzahs? Now I'm coming and having a personal chat with the Rebbe right before Chag. And the Rebbe looks at him and he says, do you have any idea how precious your matzahs are in Shemayim? And he gives him a bracha. You should always be on the side of the givers. You should always have enough that you should be able to share with others. And that is the kind of outlook that we put ourselves into come this time of the year. Because the truth is that it's a hectic time and there are things to be done, whether you're making Pesach at home, whether you're going away, whatever it is, it's a hectic time. There are a lot of things on the list that need to get checked off. And Hashem is telling us, what's the greatest way to bring bracha in the things that you're checking off? By opening our eyes and seeing if there's in some capacity that I can be a giver for someone else. From whatever my resources are, can I do for another Jew at this time of the year? And that's where we bring in the bracha that we have. They say a famous story of a housewife, and she got married and her food was disgusting. It was inedible. And she tried and she tried and she tried and she could not succeed in making a good dish. And so she had this like one very, very good quality pot, like I don't know what the brand name pot is, like a very good brand name pot, and somebody bought it for her. And they're like, you can't mess up food in this pot. It's like such a good pot. And so she's cooking, and of course she messes up the food. So they're like, okay, you know what, you're hopeless. You need to go to housewife school to learn how to cook. And so they send her to housewife school, and she learns how to make a dish, and from beginning to end, exactly what to do. And like, you know, I'm like imagining Amelia Bedelia type, like, okay, and then I do this next, and then I do that next. And she learns the whole course effectively. She graduates, and she comes home to her husband and she says, tonight I'm going to be able to make a delicious dinner. Be ready when you're going to come home tonight. It's going to smell amazing. You're going to get real food tonight. And she follows all of the instructions that she has, and she's of course using this fancy schmancy pot that she has. And by the time dinner time rolls around and her husband walks into the house, it smells gross. And like, she can't understand what happened. And he can't understand what happened. And she's like broken, and he says, call your teacher, find out what you did. And the teacher says, so knew it came out good? She says, no, it's disgusting, it's not tasty, it's inedible. And she says, okay, tell me exactly what you did. And she says exactly what she did. And she says, but you did everything right, I can't understand. She says, tell me, which pot did you cook it in? She said, in my fancy schmancy pot that I have, that, you know, every time I cooked last time, it never came out good, but this time I cooked it and it was supposed to come out good. And the teacher says, let me ask you a question. Did you clean out the pot before you started to cook? And she goes, well, I was supposed to clean out the pot? She hadn't cleaned out the old pot, and she was already cooking in something new. So of course, all the flavors, the rotten flavors, got mixed into her brand new dish. So here's the Amelia Bedelia housewife, and we laugh at her. But we have to ask ourselves, do we do this? Well, okay, not with our pots. But comes Pesach, and Hashem says, Lela Seder, the Yontif of Pesach, I am going to fill you with the most delicious, incredible light of the universe. You are going to be filled with brachas that you can't even imagine. And we're like, okay, what do I need to do? Hashem says, show up. But is the vessel that Hashem fills us in, have we cleansed it? God asks us during this tkufa to do Pesach cleaning. And my friends, Pesach cleaning does not just mean the actual technical things of what does it mean, how you have to clean, and where you have to clean, and what is chametz and what's not chametz. Pesach cleaning that's happening right now is a spiritual activity of inner cleansing, because we want to make sure that we cleanse the old to make room for the new. And so when we're in the midst of our Pesach preparations, every preparation that we do now, Hashem says, is going to affect what Leil HaSeder is going to look like. Physical preparation, spiritual preparation. You know what Rebbe Yitzchak of Berdichev says? He says that during Pesach cleaning, a person can attain Ruach HaKodesh. Not at the Seder. During the cleaning, a person can attain Ruach HaKodesh. What's the one thing that stops it? Getting angry. Getting angry blocks the Ruach HaKodesh that can be attained during these days. There was a rabbi who wrote a letter to his student, and in the letter he said, I would normally have pushed off answering this letter because we're in the first half of Chodesh Nisan, and every hour during Nisan is kivyachol, is like a whole day any other time. But he says, I know it's going to mean so much to you, so that's why I'm writing to you right now. But the moments that we have now, to grasp the moments, to hold on to the moments. The Avodas Yisrael says that all other holidays are different from Pesach. In what capacity? Every other holiday that we have, the light of the holiday, the kedusha of the holiday comes in gradually. What do I mean? Think about Shabbos, okay? So Friday afternoon, already the Shekhinah is coming down, and already there's like a shift in the spiritual energy. Friday night Suda, Shabbos lunch Suda, but when's the Spitz? When's the Holy of Holies of Shabbos? By Shalosh Sudis. Because you've had your neshama yetera, you've had the whole Shabbat to get to work yourself to that moment. That in general, all the Yamim Tovim, the light comes in gradually and climaxes towards the end of the Chag. Pesach is different. Pesach is a flash of light at the very beginning. Leil HaSeder of Pesach is the very beginning where God completely illuminates himself to us. But you know that feeling when you're somewhere very dark and you come out and you come outside and it's very light outside, and what do you see when it's very light when you came from somewhere dark? You see darkness. You can't see anything. Your eyes squint. Everything looks black until your eyes slowly and gradually adjust. And so Hashem says, comes Pesach, the way that it works is not like the other Yamim Tovim, that you have time slowly for your eyes to be able to adjust to the lights of the holiday. But rather, Leil HaSeder, Hashem says, comes as a flash of light, comes as an incredible and intense spiritual light that comes Leil HaSeder, and we have to make sure that our eyes are ready to receive, that we're ready to accept that light that comes to us. There's a Gemara that says every egg laid today was already finished yesterday. So the hen already has the egg becoming an egg, and then she lays it the next day. It was already finished inside of her, though, the day before. Explain the Chachamim that what happens on Pesach, what happens on Leil HaSeder, all the preparation already happened before. Oy vavoy if we come to our Seder not prepared. We have to come to our Seder prepared to be able to receive. And that's one of the reasons why we have an egg at the table. There are other reasons, but we have an egg at the table because of that Gemara that says that the egg that's laid today was already prepared in the hen's body the day before. The preparations that I put into now is what allows me to receive the lights on Leil HaSeder. What does it mean, lights on Leil HaSeder? Ladies, you know that there is this tefillah, Hallel. And this tefillah, Hallel, is a beautiful, gorgeous tefillah. We say it on Rosh Chodesh, and we say it on Yom Tov. And what time of the day do we say Hallel? Only in the morning. We only say Hallel during the day. There is never Hallel at night. Never. It's not allowed. But Pesach, we say it at night. And the Chachamim say, no, Hallel is never allowed to be said at night, but Pesach, we say it at night. And you know what's even stranger? So we all know, Kadesh Rechatz, Karpas, Yachatz. When is Hallel? Hallel Nirtza. It's the second to last of the 15 steps. But already by Ma'ariv, already in Arvit, there's Hallel. Not the whole thing. A little bit of Hallel. So you know that Sephardi women don't say a bracha on Hallel ever. Only on Leil HaSeder. Because it's a mitzvah aseh shehazman grama. Only on Leil HaSeder, Sephardi women can say Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu on Hallel. What is this Hallel? Comes already Arvit. It's before the Seder even started, and a little bit of Hallel is said in Arvit. And then you'll notice when you get to your Haggadah, your Hallel is the second to last step, but already before the second cup of wine is drunk, you lifted it up, and before Shulchan Aruch, you say like a little bit of Hallel. Why are we saying like Hallel, a piece in our Vit, a piece in the middle of the Seder, and then of course we say the big wonderful Hallel at the end? And the way the Chachamim explain it is that a Jew who's prepared properly can't control herself from not saying Hallel. It's like we know we have to wait second to last step till the end of the night. But oh my God, Hashem, thank you so much. Oh my God, Hashem, you are so incredible and so wonderful. Okay. I'm going to control my thank you right now. It's not the right time for it right now. That's the mode we want to put ourselves into. And that mode does not come by default. It comes by actively being mindful that that's where I want to be. Come Bezrat Hashem this Wednesday, a week from tomorrow night, yes? A week from tomorrow night. You hear that song, that we actively want to be there. So Pesach, I always thought that Passover was a translation for Pesach. I don't know why I always thought that. Until this year, I learned that it's not. Pesach literally actually means to jump. And it comes from Shir Hashirim, that Hashem jumped over the mountains to come and to redeem us, that Hashem jumped over the houses. Passover, the English Passover is that Hashem avar, that he passed over the houses. So Pesach itself actually means to jump. So what's Pshat jump? Why is it a holiday of jump? So the simple meaning is that Hashem jumped towards Mitzrayim in order to redeem us, or that Hashem jumped over the houses of Klal Yisrael and only brought destruction in the houses of Mitzrayim, of the Egyptians. But this past January, during winter break, we were listening to, I found that Rabbi Alter does a thing on Torah Anytime for children. Who's Rabbi Alter? He's a children's singer. He sings and rhymes and all kinds of things. And I was scrolling, it was winter break, and I was scrolling to see what should we listen to in the car. And I hear, okay, Rabbi Alter, and winter break time is the time of the Parshiot of Mitzrayim. And so we're listening to Rabbi Alter in the car, and he said something, blew me away, and I've been waiting since January to share it at Pesach time. So what does Rabbi Alter say? So he says, Kinderlach, do you know what Pesach means? Kinderlach, Pesach means to jump. He says, who was jumping, Kinderlach? He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter was jumping in Mitzrayim. Where was the Eibishter jumping in Mitzrayim? And he says the following. He says, the Eibishter God comes to Mitzrayim, and he's looking in the houses of a Jewish family, and he sees, wow, they're tied up with their belts ready to leave in their stick. There's the Korban Pesach, and they're eating matzah. And he says, and Kinderlach, you know what Hashem does when he looks into the windows of the Jewish families in Mitzrayim? He starts to jump for joy, and he's saying, wow, look at the Jewish families. Oh, I forgot to put this way. Look at these Jewish families. Look at how incredible and how beautiful the Jewish families are. And he's jumping outside the homes of every Jewish family. My friends, is this the most unbelievable imagery to come to Pesach with? That you say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is jumping for joy outside of my house? That Pesach Hashem is jumping. Wow, how lucky I am to have this family celebrating Pesach. That's the joy that Hashem has and that we have when it comes to this holiday. The midah of Pesach is humility, is anava. Now, we spoke in a previous class on Torah Anytime about how that's really the secret behind the matzah, and the matzah has no accessories, and it's deflated, and this whole thing of I am a matzah. What is this idea of humility? Where else do we see it? So we talk about Kriyat Yam Suf, Shvi'i Shel Pesach. It's the culmination of the Chag. And we also talk about Kriyat Yam Suf on Leil HaSeder itself. Now, what happens by Kriyat Yam Suf? So you have the Jewish people on a high. They just left Mitzrayim. They just left their slavery and their galus. And they're coming out, and it's almost like, can we breathe? Can we finally take a breath? And it's short-lived. Because before they know it, They're stressed again. The Egyptians are behind them, animals and mountains on the sides of them, and the Yam Suf in front of them. And the Jewish people split into 4 factions. Some are saying, why did you bring us out here? We're just going to die. And they're just in complain and feel bad for myself mode. And some are saying, you know what? Doesn't matter. We'll surrender. We'll hand ourselves back to the Egyptians. It's okay. It's all good. We can handle this. And some are saying, no, we're going to daven. We're going to daven. And some are saying, Chaver, let's go. Strap on your guns. We got our swords. We're going to fight the Egyptians. And everybody has a different eitzah. Everybody has a different opinion of how they're going to navigate this, of how they're going to come out of this alive. You want to know what nobody thought of? Nobody thought of God being able to split the sea. That there has to be a certain humility when we come to stressful situations in our life. When we come to problems in our life. Hashem wants us to problem solve. We're supposed to troubleshoot, but we're supposed to do it with anava. We're supposed to do it with humility. I'm going to try, maybe this can work, maybe that can work, but chas v'shalom, I should limit Hashem, that he should do the miracle in the way that I want the miracle. I need the miracle. You know what? I'm going to buy a lottery ticket, and Hashem, this is the way you can make me be able to afford all the things I need to afford and become rich. Oh, you need things? Ask Hashem for things. He has to make you win the lottery so that then you can go and buy things. Sometimes we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for miracles, and we force him to stay in that rubric, like, do it for me this way. So what do? The whole night of Leil HaSeder, we talk about how Hashem takes everything that we know in the reality of our world called nature, and he chucks it out the window. Hashem says, stop thinking that I can solve your problems the way you think I should solve your issues. Stop thinking that, oh no, if only this organization will be able to really take root, then we can have massive this and we can bring Mashiach and all the... Hashem says, have so many ways of doing things. You are limited in the reality of nature that you know. Instead, just throw yourself into my arms. Just let me know what it is that you want, where it is that you're dreaming of, where it is that you want to be in your life. And then fall into my arms and let me do that. And that is the secret of the leaning on Pesach. That I fall into HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands, not with a deflated I give up, but with an empowered humility. I don't need to figure all of this out. I need to trust Hashem that you're with me and that you'll help me do this in the best possible way. And that's the power of Leil HaSeder. That's what it means when we say that the matzah is the lechem of emunah. Because what threatens my emunah? What gets in the way of having true faith? Ego. When I think, yeah, but that can't happen, or I could do it better. When I have ego, it gets in the way, and so I lean during the matzah, and I say to Hashem, plain and simple, I am in your hands. I am completely relying on you. Kigamul alai imo, like a child nursing from his mother. Wherever I am, you will nurse me. A baby who's only been nursed in his life, when he gets hungry and mommy is not around, so he doesn't say like, my mom's not around and I'm hungry, I gotta find other ways to eat. And he starts to look around for other ways to eat. Nuh-uh. Nursing baby, when mommy's not around and he's hungry, nursing baby sits there and screams his brains out until mommy comes and feeds him. Because nursing baby knows that it's just a matter of time until he'll get fed. And we come on Pesach and we say, Hashem, I know that if I'm hungry in any capacity, I need more in a certain relationship, I need something in this area, in that area. All I need to do, Ribono Shel Olam, is sit tight and wait for you, because you will come to me. And when the mother hears that the baby is not getting relief from any other source, the mother says, okay, I'm coming to you. I'm coming to take care of you. Where's the mitzvah of emunah in the Torah? Where do we learn the mitzvah of emunah? Okay, it's Erev Pesach. Okay. We learn the mitzvah from, when I say it, you're going to be like, oh, that's what she meant. I know you all know it. We learn the mitzvah from the first of the 10 commandments, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem your God, is the mitzvah from the Torah to have emunah in Hashem. But it's kind of weird, because Anochi Hashem Elokecha seems like a fact, not like a command. What am I supposed to do with Anochi Hashem Elokecha? It's a statement. This statement of I am Hashem your God is the basis of faith. Why? How does a person get to the level of emunah? By Hashem coming kivyachol, as if saying, hi, I'm God, get to know me. The more I get to know Hashem, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the more automatically my faith increases. A person wants to work on her emunah. A person wants to work on having a higher level of faith. What does she need to do? All she needs to do is get to know God a little bit better. And so that's where all of the emunah sfarim are, to understand how does Hashem work, and Hashem loves me, and Hashem is all powerful. And we have this mini drasha during the Seder where God says, hi, I'm God. Would you like to get to know me? And the whole Haggadah is Him introducing Himself to us. And if I'm prepared to get to know Him, I learn about Him. I teach about Him. I tell about Him. V'chol hamar b'lesaper. And anyone who talks more and more about it. Ladies, we have a religion that the more concise and the more brief something is, the more weight it holds. The Chumash says it in the briefest way. Rashi comments in the briefest way. A good speaker knows you want to say something, you have to say it in the briefest way that you can say it. But the more you speak about Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, Harei Zeh Meshubach, why? Because what you're doing is getting to know Hashem. And the more you talk about God, Harei Zeh Meshubach, you know why? Because what will happen by default is the more you get to know God, automatically the more emunah you'll have. The more emunah you'll have, the more you give God the ability to show Himself to you in a revealed way. And everybody benefits. You live your life in a miraculous level, and God, there's nothing that brings God more pleasure than giving us pleasure. But we have to accept the relationship. The more I know Hashem, the more I have emunah. And so Lela Seder is about getting to know Ribono Shel Olam, getting to know how He works. There, Reb Elimelech Biderman says a story of a chassid of Rav Michal Mizlatovich. And this chassid comes to the Rebbe and says to the Rebbe, I need to collect money. I'm going through difficult times, and I need to collect money, and I want that the Rebbe should write a letter. I've been your chassid for many years. Write a letter so that when I go to collect from people, I'll show them, the Rebbe, he knows me. I'm not a scam. I'm not a fake out. And people should give me berevach. They should give me plentifully. So the Rebbe looks at his student, and he says to him, I'm sorry, I can't write you the letter. So the student is so sad. And he says, but Rabbi, why? Why can't you write me the letter? And the rabbi explains. And he says, I'm afraid if I write you the letter, then if you show it to somebody and they decide they don't want to give to you for whatever reason, you're going to get really angry. You're going to say, it's a chutzpah to the Rebbe. I have over here the Rebbe's signature. How dare this Jew not give? And the chassid says, I hear what you're saying. That is probably how I would react. How could somebody say no to someone endorsed by the Rebbe himself? And the Rebbe explains to him, and he says to him, see, the problem is that there is a list in Shamayim of who's going to give to your cause and who's not. And no matter what, a letter, not a letter, whoever is written on the list to give to your cause will give. And whoever is not on the list, even if you have 50 letters from the greatest Gedolim, they're not going to give to your cause. And so you can't get angry at someone who doesn't give to your cause because they're not on the list. And the Chazaq sits for a minute and really listens to the words, what his Rebbe is telling him. And he opens his eyes and he says to his Rebbe, I'm a Kabel. I receive from you. I will go, and with your letter, but anybody who doesn't give to me, I will not think badly of them at all. I will just realize that they're not on my list. And the Rebbe says, okay, in that case, I'll write you a letter. And he writes him a letter. And this guy goes, and the first few people that he goes to, they give in a nice way. And then he goes to a very, very wealthy Jew, and who he knows is very close to the Rebbe. And he shows the letter to this Jew, thinking he's going to get a very big check over here. And the Jew says, do you know how many people came to my house today? I'm sorry, but right now, I know the Rebbe signed that, but I'm sorry. Right now, funds are dry. I'm sorry to have to turn you away, but it's not the right time. Maybe another time. I don't know. And he gets ready to turn this chassid away. And at first, the chassid wants to be like, are you crazy? Like, look at your house. Look at what you have. You're going to say no to me and the Rebbe. But he remembers. And under his breath, he says to himself, he's just not on the list. It's okay. He's not on the list. And he smiles at him, and he's about to walk away. And the wealthy man says, what did you just say? And he says, nothing. It was nothing. Nothing against you. You should be blessed. Everything is good. And the wealthy man says, I want to know what you just said. He said, it's nothing. It's something between me and the Rebbe. It has nothing to do, like, you're good. Everything is fine. You don't need to be scared. And the wealthy man says, I'm begging you, please tell me what you just said. So the man says, really, honestly, it had nothing to do with you. He says, listen, the Rebbe taught me that whoever is going to give to me, it was on a list in Shamayim that, sorry, I messed up the story. The guy says to him, I promise if you tell me what you mumbled under your breath, that I'm going to write you a check. And so the chassid says, okay, I'll tell you, but you first write the check. So the guy says, okay, fine. And he writes him a nice big check. And he says, so what did you say? So he says, the Rebbe told me that whoever's going to give me tzedakah, that it's already written on a list in Shamayim that person is zocha to give tzedakah to my cause. At first, I thought that you weren't on the list. And so that's what I was saying. He's not on the list. He's not on the list. But in the end, we see that you were taka on the list because you actually gave me a check. And so you made it to the Rebbe's list. So when we realize that there is a list in Shamayim, sometimes we ask somebody to do something. We expect something from somebody. We can't believe that this person dropped the ball like that. How come? We have to remind ourselves, they weren't on the list. They weren't on the list to do this chesed. They weren't on the list to do this favor. They just weren't on the list. And when we realize that, it gives us that inner yishuv hadas. It gives us that inner calm where we don't want, like Reb Yitzchak of Berdichev said, we don't want to push away the Ruach HaKodesh with anger. We get angry because we have an expectation, and the expectation is foiled. So we want to make sure that we retain this yishuv hadas, because our preparation is what's going to allow us to be able to receive the light of the Seder, of Pesach night. There was a family in Bnei Brak that had an apartment. They had a 2-story apartment, and there was a way that they could, if they would cut their apartment a little bit, the downstairs part, and there was another entrance, and they decided that what they were going to do was they were going to cut a piece of their apartment, put up a wall, and make another apartment. It's called a yechida, like a single studio apartment, and rent that out for income because they were a growing family and they needed this income. And so they said, okay, and they speak to the different architects and everything, and everybody tells them, listen, you put in a lot of money now, but you'll see within a year you're going to make back all the money that you put in, and then you're going to start to make profit. And of course, the Pele Yoetz says that when you start to do construction, you should set aside whatever they tell you it's going to cost, you should set aside double, because there's always other things that come up. And so this family in Bnei Brak that had this idea that they were going to make their own apartment a little bit smaller so that they could have parnasa, it turned out to be a much bigger project than they anticipated. Cost them a lot of money, but Baruch Hashem, finally it's done. And they put an ad in the paper that there is this small apartment and the rent and the price that they're asking for, and it's clean and it's meshupatzt, it's renovated, and before you know it, they get a phone call. They get a phone call from an older woman, and she says, I'm very interested in your apartment. What are you asking for? And they say the rent, and she says, that's actually perfectly within my budget. And she says, can you send me a picture? And they said, no, you want to just come and see it? She says, no, I'm an old lady, I can't come and see it. Just send me a picture. So, okay, they don't have in Bnei Brak their smartphones. They find somebody who has one, who's going to send her the picture and whatever. They get the picture to her. She says, what, I love the apartment. I'm taking it. I'm coming on so-and-so day. And she says, do you have the chozeh? You have the contract ready? And they say yes. And they tell her, you sure you can pay the rent? And she says yes. And they say, we're sorry, but we're asking for 3 months in advance. Is that something you can handle? And she says, no problem. I'll bring it with me when I come to sign. So the day comes that she's coming into the apartment, and they answer the door, and lo and behold, it's a secular woman from Tel Aviv. And this is in the heart of Bnei Brak. And they look at her, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, this is going to be awkward. She's not dressed in the Bnei Brak style, and so they're talking to her, and they say, so what brings you to Bnei Brak? She says, I'm not religious. I don't keep Shabbat. And they're like, she's going on and on and on about how she really doesn't keep anything. And they're trying to say, but this can get, we just want to tell you, it can get very loud because there's a lot of children over here. And they're trying to talk her out of taking the apartment, but she is gung-ho. She's taking the apartment. She says, I'm getting older. I'm an old lady, and I want to live amongst the religious Jews because they're kinder to old people. Okay. So they say, okay, fine. And she's there, and they have the 3 months rent. It was a mechaya for them. They were able to breathe a little bit. And it comes the 4th month, and they actually get to know her, and she's kind of like a very sweet woman. The people invite her for Shabbat, and she's going, and she's asking questions, and every so often she asks this family, could you pick up some groceries for me? And so they've added her they pick up a few things every week extra for her, and they don't charge her for it. She's an old lady. Anyhow, comes the 4th month, and they say, hi, it's so nice having you over here, but it's now time to pay rent for the 4th month. And she gives them like a little bit of an excuse, and she says, but don't worry, next month I'm going to have. Long story short, she's not paying rent. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 9 months, she's in the apartment. And this family, they made the apartment in order to have another income. And now, not only they don't have the income, but they also have another expense because they started going grocery shopping for her, and they're not going to switch things up now. They don't know what to do. 9 months, they're swallowing the cost. They realize that she's not, every week, she says, I don't have money for my medicines this month. I don't have this, I don't have that. So they go to their Rav. And they say, what should we do? We wanted this for income. What should we do? And the Rav gets all of the information about this woman and her age and everything. And he says, B'shum panim v'ofen, you can't kick her out. You can't kick her out. You cannot evict her. She has nowhere to go. If her financial system is so dire that she can't pay for the rent, you cannot kick her out. And he says to them, you go over here to this Rav, and he sends them to a Rav. He says, get a bracha that Hashem should take care of you. So they go, they get a bracha, and their Rav gives a bracha, and this family swallows the cost of this woman living and not paying rent for 5 years. 5 years go by and they get a phone call from her, and she says to them, I'm very sick and I'm going to the hospital. Don't worry, I already called the ambulance, but I'd like you to visit me. Okay, so they're like, fine. They go and visit her in the hospital, and she says to them, I just wanted to say I'm so sorry and thank you so much. And over the course of these 5 years, she had started to keep Shabbat, and she says, you gave me so much as an old lady. I'm so thankful to you, and I'll always be thankful to you. And they say, okay, well, hopefully you're going to come back and everything is going to be fine. And she smiles nicely at them. And after they leave, a few hours later, they get a phone call from the hospital that this woman passed away. So she's dead, and she has no relatives. And they now, they figure out the funeral arrangements, but now they have the apartment. And it's all their furniture because it was a furnished apartment. And so they go into this apartment where they haven't been getting rent from all of these years. And they see that she's left a letter on the table. And she leaves the letter on the table and she says, I'm so sorry how this whole thing turned out. And she writes that she was a Holocaust survivor. And she never told him that she was a Holocaust survivor. And she grew up in Tel Aviv completely throwing off the yoke of Yiddishkeit and Judaism and becoming completely under that brainwash that religious Jews are so bad and like how we're seeing now that there's such a rift in Eretz Yisrael between the religious Jews and the non-religious Jews, and Hashem should just bring us to Achdut. We should be to Achdut for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's sake. There's no pain in the world greater than when a father sees his children fighting. And so she says, I decided I wanted to test you. And I wanted to see, are religious Jews really nice, or only when you pay them they're nice? And she says, and I can't believe that for 5 years you let me stay in your apartment free of rent. And she gives them the address over there. She says, I have an apartment in Tel Aviv, I own it. And she leaves all of the paperwork. The apartment is entirely yours. Please consider it as payment for the 5 years of rent and as gratitude that I have for you, for how you treated an old lady and restored my faith. They go and they look up, and it's a real apartment, and they see, and they have real documents and everything. And this apartment was worth 3 million shekels in Tel Aviv. And so obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put them in this position and said, but you put something out into the universe, it's gonna come back to you. Comes Pesach. And one of the main principles that we see is that the good people get rewarded and the bad people get punished. It took a mighty long time, many years of slavery, but the good people got rewarded and the bad people got punished. And that's one of the Ikrei Emunah. That's one of the foundations of Emunah that we teach ourselves and that we teach our children. That when you do good in this world, it will be rewarded. And Chalila, if someone does bad in this world, it will come back to them. Sometimes we don't see it right away, but everything comes back to us. And so we come out of the Pesach Seder understanding that Hashem is giving me new light, fresh tools. But in order for the light to be delicious, I have to cleanse myself from all of the old leftover stuff. Pesach cleaning is about spiritually cleaning myself, letting go of a grudge if I have a grudge, letting go of a boundary that I've set for myself. You know what? I'm going to go, but only up until this point. You know me, you know my personality. I will never go past this. Let's let that melt away. We can stretch. Hashem stretches nature. we can stretch ourselves. Pesach cleaning, we clean ourselves so that when Hashem pours the light into us, it's pure, delicious, unadulterated, not contaminated by all of the old stuff. We make sure that we are prepared for that light, that we put time into the preparation, because the preparation, like the egg which was prepared yesterday and only laid today, the preparation is what gives us the power to absorb the gifts of Pesach. That we realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is coming and Pesach is, hi, I'm God, get to know me. The more I get to know Hashem, the more emunah I have. We start the Pesach Seder with questions, yeah? Ma nishtana halayla hazeh, ma, what is this, Hashem? What? How do we end the Pesach Seder? Do we ever answer those questions? We end the Pesach Seder also with questions. What's the question in Nirtzah? Echad mi yodeya, echad ani yodeh, shtayim mi yodeya. Who knows? We're asking questions also at the end. Listen to the difference between the questions. The beginning of the Seder, we come and we say, Ma, it's fine. Ma, what is this? Ma, what's going on? Ma nishtana, ma, what? Hashem says, I don't need to answer your question. Sit at the Pesach Seder for a few hours, get to know me. And then we have the answer with an entirely different question at the end. Mi yodeya, echad ani yodeya. Our question shifts from ma, what's going on in this world, to me, who? Where is Hashem? It's all Hashem. That the questions of our lives shift from what's going on to, oh my gosh, I'm in a panic, what's going on? Wait, me, who's behind this? Hashem is behind this. And that transition happens with the Pesach Seder experience. And so Yehi Ratzon, we should merit to be able to sit on Pesach night with our eyes wide open to receive the spiritual light, that we should lean into the embrace of our loving Father and feel completely humbled. I know what I want, but how I get there, Ribono Shel Olam, you have ideas that I can't even fathom, and I completely trust you. And Yehi Ratzon, we should be zocha to see Geula Shalema in our personal lives, in the lives of Am Yisrael and Bnei Yisrael, and that we should be zocha this year to eat Korban Pesach in the Beit HaMikdash HaShlishi. Thank you, ladies. Chag Kasher v'Sameach.